won't back down. Hey, baby, there ain't no easy way out.
Okay, you've heard me talk about sleep cream the last several weeks. Sleep is one of, if not the most important element in being able to function day to day. And most of us, including me, do not get enough quality sleep with the amount of daily stress or insane schedules that we're all keeping. Here's what I found to help me sleep better. Sleep cream. It's not a drug. It's not a prescription. It's a cream. I just rub it on when I'm ready to turn in for the night. And within a few minutes, it helps me relax and allows my body to do what it is supposed to do, sleep. Take my word, I am sleeping great when I have time for it. Sleep cream is all natural CBD with essential oils and a great lavender scent that I can't recommend enough. Try sleep cream for a couple of nights and see if it works for you as well as it did for me. If you don't sleep better from using it, sleep cream will refund your purchase and you don't even have to return it. Totally risk-free. Go to sleepcream.com. That's sleepcream.com. Sleep, CREME.com. And as a bonus, use code November24 at checkout to save $24 off your first order. That's November24, all one word, at checkout. Get your best sleep ever with Sleep Cream at sleepcream.com. Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us right here on The Right View. Tonight, we're excited. She's a first-timer with us, political and social commentator Sabrina Kosmas, and editor-in-chief of Breitbart, Alex Marlow. So, guys, welcome. Sabrina, we kind of joked earlier that there's so much to talk about. We probably would need like 5 hours to really fit it all in. We're going to try and condense it here. I think one of the things that really came out of this weekend for me, and I'll let you go ahead and jump in on this, was Tim Walz hunting. He was somewhat criticized, I would say. Seems like he's trying to woo male voters at this point. There were a couple of issues with his hunting. Do you think, I'll start with this question for you, Sabrina. Do you think that did a lot to bring the men over to vote for the Harris-Walz ticket? Because we know that they actually do have a men problem. And I don't know, do you think that did the trick this weekend with Tim Walz?
Unfortunately, I don't think so. I think sending Elmer Fudd out for a photo op when he couldn't even load his shotgun was kind of a failed attempt at getting male voters, especially when Democrats have spent the last, 12 years since Obama hating on white men in this country, telling them that they're the root of every problem.
Right.
And then trying to basically go send him out to do the most stereotypical things that they think white dudes do. I think they're better off, honestly, putting him in front of a buck hunter arcade game than sending him out on an actual hunting field.
It's all so phony, Alex. It all reeks of desperation, reeks of phoniness.
Yeah.
And a lot of people were criticizing him about with the guns, that there were a lack of guns. And so here's some of my favorite comments, because, I do love a good comment section. Somebody says, like Chuck Schumer grilling raw burgers with the cheese on top. That's pretty much how you felt watching Tim Walz try to pheasant hunt. The pheasants died of old age. It's a gun, not a tampon, Tim. Alex, give us your assessment of the hunt this weekend.
Lara, first of all, it's great to see you. I'm glad to be back on, and it's nice to be on with Sabrina, who does amazing work for PragerU, one of our absolute favorite groups at Breitbart. So it was very fun that she's on. He can't load his own gun. So why do you send a guy out who can't load his own gun? And again, I'm a gun rights advocate. I'm not a gun aficionado. If I was on the ticket, I would not be asked to be put in this position. Just don't make me embarrass myself. Just there's other ways you can speak articulately about the brilliance of the Second Amendment and why it's necessary. And that goes a lot longer with gun owners than you acting like a charlatan. But there's something that the Democrats do this all the time. You guys might recall that in 2004, when John Kerry was the nominee, they sent him out for a quail hunt, and the media showed up, and the media was kept away from the hunt so they couldn't witness anything that was going on. For all we know, John Kerry was at the supermarket or something during the hunt, but he had dressed up as a character. And they think that their own voters are manipulatable in that way. And this is where you have to actually think, why are they doing this? The reason why is because there are millions of gun owners who, as far as we know, Lara, you probably know this better than anyone here, We don't know if they're going to vote. And the Second Amendment is so important, and Kamala Harris's record is horrific on it. Did you know that in 2008, she signed on to a friend of the court brief on the DC versus Heller case, which argued that the Second Amendment does not guarantee an individual right to bear arms. It does not guarantee the right to have a handgun. It is only law in the context of a militia.
Wow.
Kamala Harris signed on to that. No one's aware of this. Almost no one knows this. And she is a existential threat to gun ownership. And that's why they send Tampon Tim out to make a fool of himself.
Well, we know that she's in favor of a mandatory buyback, that, we have it all on tape. You've got it coming out of her mouth. So we understand that. But all of this, whether it's this situation over the weekend, whether it's the fact that now you're going to have Kamala Harris apparently going on Fox News coming up on Wednesday night, which I think should be very interesting to see how that's going. I think at the heart of this, Sabrina, it really is the fact that I feel it out there everywhere I travel, but they're starting to see within their internal numbers at the Harris Walz campaign that things are not trending in the right direction for them. They are very nervous about what's going to happen on November 5th. And if you just look at what Obama said last week, which was, of course, just insane, that he's criticizing people for making a decision on how they're voting based on anything other than the aesthetic nature of the candidate. Take it from Obama, not from me. They're seeing that Black voters, especially Black men, are shifting towards Donald Trump. Look at Donald Trump's support with Black voters in 2016, 6%, Sabrina. 2020, he got 8% of the vote. Right now, Donald Trump, with all Black voters, men and women, is winning 15% of the vote if the election were held today. And with Black men, it is towards 30%. That is a very scary statistic, and those are very scary numbers for the Democrats. And I'd imagine it's why they're just pulling out all the stops, and they're sending Kamala out there. They're like, just try it on Fox News. Who knows what's going to happen when, bless her heart, can't even get through a 60 Minutes interview yet. We're supposed to, this is a person sitting across the table from Xi Jinping, from Kim Jong-un, from Vladimir Putin. Give me a break. They are desperate, and they're panicking right now, Sabrina, are they not?
You know it's bad when they have to drag Obama out of one of his multi-million-dollar homes to go shame Black men into voting for Kamala, because her policies and her personality are so unlikable. And it's saying a lot when Joe Biden, a man who literally told Black men that they were not Black if they didn't vote for him, is more popular than our alleged first Black female presidential candidate.
It's pretty bad. I went, Alex, over last Friday. I was in Michigan. And I went to Michigan to do an Arab Americans for Trump event. This is another voting bloc that is very scary to the Democrats. You have seen a shift with voters of Arab American descent, Latino American descent. You've seen these numbers shifting, and they're moving towards Donald Trump. And I'd imagine that once people wake up and they start voting for Republicans, they're voting for Donald Trump right now. The Democrats are probably worried about this election, but they're also worried about future elections. And I feel like there's a bit of a renaissance. There's like an awakening right now happening in this country with all different sorts of people. And I know the alarm bells are going off on the other side of the aisle right now.
Yeah, one of the key moments of this election cycle was the mess that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris got the whole country into with regards to the war in Israel and Gaza and October the 7th, 2023, where they tried to have their cake and eat it too. And they tried to be tough on Israel, but also kind of understanding that Israel is the ones who are under attack and have traditionally been great allies of ours, and Hamas are evil terrorists. So they had this very tough predicament where they had to pander to the pro-Hamas voter base of the far left of the Democrat Party, and also to normal people and a lot of their donors, quite frankly, who are traditionally supportive of Israel. They were never going to be able to do this, and now the polling is in, and they failed. They failed completely. And you see a lot of people who are Arab Americans who would naturally vote Democrat splitting from the Democrat Party and going to either third party like Jill Stein or to Donald Trump. And you're seeing my old colleague Michelle Moons is doing a lot of organization out there. Arab Americans lining up to vote for Trump in Michigan. It's really cool to see some of this stuff that's happening because Trump is broadening the tent to all these new demographics.
Yeah, and like I said, Sabrina, it's not just look, we want everybody to come into this party, because I think whenever people start actually looking at what conservatives stand for and what it is that we want to do in this country, we want less government interference. We want you to keep more of your money. We want jobs to come back. You know, all the things are very positive for this country. We're prioritizing Americans over people who are not American, and you can read that a whole lot of different ways. But it is something that I think when we're talking about elections, you have to look at the future as well, because I believe Donald Trump is going to handily win in 2024. Don't take it for granted, though. Get out and vote early, everybody. But whenever you're looking down the line at 2026, 2028, elections in the future, I really don't think these people, a lot of them, go back to the Democrat Party, because I would feel very disenfranchised as a Democrat voter. You have Kamala Harris, who not a single person voted for, who obviously is their candidate right now. They pulled a coup on old Biden, just kicked him right out. And you heard Donald Trump probably talk about it if you saw him on his Maria Bartiromo interview over the weekend. But on top of that, it really has felt like to a lot of people, they're prioritizing everyone but the American people. So I don't think that sits very well with folks. And I'd imagine that going forward, you're going to have a bit of a hard time convincing people to come back into the Democrat Party. What do you think, Sabrina?
Yeah, I absolutely think so. And it really shocks me when liberals are so surprised that people who are socially or even religiously conservative, like a lot of Arab people, when they vote according to their beliefs. So I think that they're just kind of having a brutal wake-up call, especially when these policies that have been pushed on them are not in their favor.
They're not. Donald Trump was in Aurora, Colorado, Alex, over the weekend. And I thought it was fantastic to see, because, you know, you can call out a problem, but Donald Trump doesn't just call it out. He actually went there. He went to Aurora, where we know a Venezuelan gang has taken over an entire apartment complex, which shout out to J.D. Vance over the weekend for his takedown of Martha Raddatz, when she said, Alex, she was kind of saying, listen, there have only been a handful of instances where you've had gangs taking over apartment complexes. One is enough. How many do you need, Alex, before it becomes a big enough deal that the mainstream media is going to call these people out for it? So I would love for you to respond to that. But he also started talking about, Donald Trump over the weekend, Operation Aurora, which I think is very important. And basically what he's saying is that whenever we deport people from this country, we've had probably 20 million illegals come into America on Kamala Harris's watch as borders are. We're going to prioritize deporting people who are criminals, the gang members, the 13,000 murderers that they've let in, the 15,000 people who have, been accused of or convicted of sexual assault. And he says also that he wants the death penalty for illegal immigrants who kill Americans and or police officers. Alex, I think people in Aurora, Colorado are probably like, thank God somebody is paying attention and somebody has heard us, because certainly their own leadership there in the state has failed them.
Yeah, it's interesting if you contrast a couple of key interviews that we saw in the last couple of days. J.D. Vance absolutely just body slamming Martha Raddatz. Figuratively speaking, I will say.
Have to be clear, Alex.
Yeah, you got to be clear these days. And she was suggesting it's acceptable. It's acceptable if only a certain level of our apartment complexes are taken over by foreign criminals and foreign gangs. You gotta be kidding me. This is the absolute biggest disgrace you could imagine from the media, and JD just calmly dismantles her. And then you've got Tim Walz, who's with Michael Strahan, a former football player, and he can't even answer what his position is or the campaign's position is on the Electoral College. He doesn't know if he agrees with Kamala Harris or not. They have to hide from what they truly believe. All Donald Trump and J.D. Vance have to do is explain to the public what they believe, and if they're actually heard in full context, they win people over. It's a much easier plan to close out this election cycle, and both men are doing it really well right now.
I couldn't agree more. I think that this Aurora appearance too, Sabrina, was great. Donald Trump also said that if gang members and violent illegal immigrants have been deported and then they come back into the United States, which we know they do all the time because there are no consequences, there's nothing, that it would be an automatic mandatory 10-year prison sentence if he is elected president of the United States. You know, you cannot go with an open border, but for so long without there being tragedies happening, right? And you look at people, look at the name Laken Riley. Everybody knows who Laken Riley is. She was a college student in Georgia who was killed by an illegal immigrant. Guess who agrees with this whole thing? The fact that you would have several of these people, a lot of people alive, a lot less crime in this country right now. Certainly wouldn't have a Venezuelan gang taking over an apartment complex, but Laken Riley would be alive right now, as well as so many of these other young women who have been murdered by illegal immigrants. Bill Clinton also talking about the fact that he agrees with this. I have to imagine the Harris campaign is probably not very pleased with Bill Clinton talking about exactly what we all have been saying for so long and finally agreeing with us. Thank you, Bill Clinton.
Yeah, and I have to imagine that someone is getting fired on my campaign today after this. But her border policy is so bad when Bill Clinton is actively on her own campaign trail, supposed to be advocating for her, and that admits that innocent American lives could have been saved had she not had her policies in place. This open border is really something else. And I think it's just going to be probably, if not the biggest issue that's going to hurt her this election cycle. But the ironic thing, too, is that Democrats like to paint, President Trump and Republicans as being so anti-Hispanic, when it's actually a very large portion of the Hispanic voting bloc that is going to be swaying right because of immigration. We saw it too with just some of the questions and even the reactions of people at Kamala's Univision town hall last week. I also speak as someone who's a first-generation Cuban American. My Cuban family members, many of whom were Democrats until recently, absolutely love President Trump. They literally call him cariñoso, guapo, all the things. And they love that he is going to close the border because, a lot of people like my family members came here the legal, correct way. They came here to acclimate to American life, to give their families better lives. And when you have drugs and crime just running rampant in Hispanic communities here in America, it's not good. And then you have Democrats like Bill Clinton admitting it.
Hey, Sabrina, what did your family members think of the accent that Kamala Harris put on for that Univision town hall? Did they like that?
Oh, they loved it. Honestly, I probably sound like that when I go to Miami and visit my family members after being raised in California. But I love when a new Kamala accent drops. I can't say it enough.
It is. Did you guys see the Kamala accent, the Barbie over the video this weekend? Somebody made like this. It's like you pull the string and she's got a different accent.
For different girls that are holding the doll.
Yeah, it's all phony and it's all fake. That is the thing that I will always go back to this at the base of all of it, which is that the American people at the end of the day are very smart and very savvy and can smell a rat and can smell inauthenticity immediately with people. And that's what you're getting with Kamala Harris. She has no idea how to articulate her policy points because she doesn't know what they are. She doesn't have any. She's not going to be the one running things. It's going to be the machine that's been behind Joe Biden the whole time anyway. We all already know that. She goes out there and no matter what crowd she's in, she's going to talk like you because she wants you to think that she's one of you and that she can get this job done. Everyone knows she is a phony and she has been from the very beginning. You contrast that, Alex, with Donald Trump, who is as authentic as they come. And I know people criticize him for it, but I will always say, I want the guy telling me the truth, even if it's hard to hear. Give me the person who's giving it to me straight and telling me sometimes the hard things to hear. That's what this country needs. I just can't, you cannot have more different sets of people than Donald Trump and J.D. Vance, Kamala Harris, and Tim Walz. The inauthenticity on the Democrat side it just reeks of inauthenticity. It's terrible. Hey, ladies, wouldn't it be amazing to support a skincare company that shares our values and celebrates faith, family, and freedom and proudly stands behind conservative causes? Well, I have found the perfect skincare brand, and it's called Nimi. Nimi offers simplified daily routines that cleanse, brighten, protect, and help fight the key signs of aging. You can literally just clear out your entire cabinet and replace all your miscellaneous products with an effective routine from Nimi. Nimi offers clean, effective skincare proudly made in the USA that stands strong against the woke progressive beauty companies that back anti-American causes. Nimi has luxurious skincare for all skin types, offering cleansers, toners, moisturizers, serums, and more. I personally love Nimi's Clean line as it offers high-end clean skincare products that are free from fragrance and other chemicals that may disrupt your skin's natural microbiome. Build a custom bundle and save up to 20% off your routine, plus use code LARA for an additional 5% off. Visit NimiSkincare.com, that's N-I-M-I skincare.com, to elevate your routine with America's skincare company, or click the link in my bio to save big on your order using code LARA today. FDN firefighter Daniel Foley assisted in rescue and recovery efforts at Ground Zero. But Daniel couldn't have known then that his heroism would cost him his life more than 18 years later. His death, like so many others, resulted from 9/11 related illnesses caused by the toxic dust that formed when the Twin Towers collapsed. Victims and first responders are still suffering and dying from 9/11. Yet children in this nation are growing up unaware of America's darkest day. The Tunnel to Towers 9/11 Institute is helping educators teach children about 9/11. Tunnel to Towers 9/11 curriculum units have scripted lessons, background for teachers, and activities for students. They're based on first-person accounts and designed to meet many academic standards. The 9/11 Institute offers the Discovering Heroes book series, a speakers bureau, a mobile exhibit with 9/11 artifacts, and memorial scholarships for the children of the Foundation's program recipients. Help our nation keep its promise to never forget. Donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers at T2T.org. That's T2T.org.
Sure, and the American people are smart, but Lara, you're underestimating how much the American people love a remix. We love a remix. And Kamala knows this. I mean, she's hip, she's with it, so that's all she's doing here when she busts out the Jamaican accent at random. No, they're clueless, and you're right about the authenticity, because they don't do well either way. They don't do well when they act authentic, because Kamala is a plutocrat. Yeah, she's a plutocrat who was tapped on the shoulder by what's known as the San Francisco Mafia, led by Willie Brown in California when she was 29 years old, and she was anointed a superstar. And that's how she spent her entire adult life, is being treated that way. She can't relate to any people on the ground, normal American voters. She's completely removed from them. Tim Walz is weird. That's why he cast J.D. Vance as weird, because he's weird himself. It's total projection. Democrats do this all the time. You see Donald Trump or J.D. Vance go out into a restaurant or to a gas station. They seem very comfortable. They're having fun. They get along with people. You send the Democrats out there. Bill Clinton goes out there at a McDonald's. They confuse him for Joe Biden. They can't tell the difference. It's the best poetry imaginable. The people in the store, is that Joe Biden? No, it's Bill Clinton. And Clinton is trying to cover his behind now, and he's acting like Harris's border policy is bad because he doesn't want to get blamed if a disaster happens in November. I mean, it is pretty glorious. I got to admit, we're kind of on a roll right now.
Oh my gosh. If we can just hang on to this for 3 more weeks, and I think we will. Look, you talk, Sabrina, about the fact that there are so many Latino voters who are coming over. I was talking about all the Arab American, especially the Black men, but Latino support is decreasing, at least in the polling right now. I'm going to remind everybody, Donald Trump has never polled well. The polls have never accurately reflected where people stand when it comes to Donald Trump. And I actually believe that right now what's going on with the polling is very much like what was going on in 2016, where I would go out there and people would come up and whisper to me that they were voting for Donald Trump. A lot of times the way they conduct these polls is they either call you on the phone or they text you. Well, there are a lot of people out there, Sabrina, who are like, you know what? I just don't want people to know. I'm not going to answer on this thing because then they're going to know I'm a Trump voter. And then what if they come after me? What about the IRS agents? What about this, that, and the other? No one wants to hassle. So I think a lot of people are being a little bit dishonest. But even at that, right now, the national polling has Donald Trump and Kamala Harris tied in a dead heat right now. You, Sabrina, told me that you just moved from California to Texas, but you do have a lot of friends and family back in California. Do you think, based on what you're feeling, that the national average is right? Do you think it's neck and neck, or do you think that Donald Trump is probably doing better than the polling would suggest?
I personally do not trust the polling, especially like you said, after 2016. I would personally think that he is quite a bit ahead, and they do not want us to know that. They do not want people to feel emboldened to support him. I go back and forth from California to Texas quite a bit. I was just in California for 2 weeks, and I was amazed at the amount of Trump flags I saw. My parents live in a suburb right outside of LA, and their whole hill is covered in American flags and Trump flags. The two go together. They just belong together. And I noticed it too. I was all over San Diego, Orange County, and a lot of pockets in LA County that normally I know are conservative leaning, but are usually pretty quiet. They are loud and proud on busy streets with Trump's flags. I mean, I was pretty amazed. I think I saw more Trump flags in California than I did Pride flags, which is saying a lot.
It's our number one fundraising state, Alex, California. And you're in California still as well,
Yeah,
aren't you, Alex?
yeah. So Sabrina and I are kind of neighbors, or at least when she's camped out here. And I have the same exact experience that she's having. I live in a suburb of LA that's just north, and we have a wonderful Republican Congressman, Mike Garcia. It's a mixed district, leaning Republican. It's going to be really tight in the congressional race. If any of you are in that district watching, you've got to get involved
Go
right
vote.
now.
Yep.
But it is it's the same exact experience. Look, the Democrats have lost their cool factor. They're not cool anymore. Even in LA, it is not cool to show any Harris, Walz, or Biden paraphernalia, memorabilia. All that is out. No one wants to see it. It is the counterculture is Donald Trump and his ethos, and that's just a fact. And look, a unenthusiastic voter counts exactly the same as an enthusiastic voter. So they can still get the millions of unenthusiastic voters to turn in ballots for her, but they just don't like her. She's not well liked, and Joe Biden wasn't well liked either.
Well, and especially if you're talking about in a state like California, go straight to San Francisco. That was Kamala Harris's district. You can look at the disaster that has ensued there and specifically San Francisco. And I would say, take a look around. Nancy Pelosi, thanks, Nancy. Thanks, Kamala Harris. San Francisco, this is pretty shocking, is closing 11 schools. They're shuttering 9% of their public schools amid drug and crime crisis, as well as declining enrollment. Look, a lot of people certainly are leaving the state. Just like you, Sabrina, they're like, we got to get out of here. But this is 2,000 kids that are going to be removed. They cannot afford to keep these schools open right now. They say over the past 7 years, the city's public school enrollment has decreased by over 4,000 students, resulting in $80,000 of revenue loss. The school district anticipated that the demographic shifts and declining birth rates would result in at least an additional 4,600 students lost by 2032. And so the school closures are now exacerbated by the challenges of increasing homelessness and the escalating number of fentanyl overdoses, which has been a source for concern of the future of San Francisco in recent years. I don't know anyone who would want to live in San Francisco right now. And it's so sad, Sabrina, because this is once upon a time, it was one of the most beautiful places in the country. I think I remember the first time I went to San Francisco, I was probably 10 years old and being so excited to go there. And it was beautiful and this, that, and the other. You've got restaurants leaving, you got schools closing. It's going in the wrong direction. And I always wonder, are people going to continue in these areas to vote for Democrats? Because look around at the leadership, look who brought it to you, and think about how different things are in places where you have Republicans in charge. Are they going to continue to vote Democrat, do you think, in San Francisco, Sabrina?
It's so hard to say because, San Francisco is the epitome of Democratic policies, which are anti-family. They just are. It's the reason so many, like myself, are leaving California in droves, especially San Francisco. You have such a major drug and homeless problem. It's not safe to raise your kids there. And so, of course, these families are going to be leaving, and then you're going to be left with lower child populations. And then on a social level, you also have these liberals that are encouraging young people to not start families, to either abort their kids or just not have them in the name of climate change. So unfortunately, these places are becoming hubs for single people, and that population is eventually going to dwindle, and it's going to hurt the public schools.
It's really sad to see. I'll tell you, Alex, what another thing that I think is really sad is the way that the Democrats apparently are not interested at all in any sort of election integrity. I'll say this. That has been my number one charge at the RNC since becoming co-chair. I've worked really hard alongside Michael Whatley, our chairman, to make sure that we have free, fair, and transparent elections. And what that has looked like has come in a lot of different forms. We have 200,000 people we are training or have already trained to be eyes in the room, boots on the ground, people every time a vote is cast and counted. These are legal experts in many cases who are going to be there starting the first day of early voting, which has already started in some states. We have had to, utilize legal methods. We've sued quite a few times, I think 109 at the last count. And this is all to make it harder to cheat and easier to vote for people. So I look at a place like Virginia where you had Glenn Youngkin finally come out and say, you know what, we're going back to paper ballots. Shout out to Governor Glenn Youngkin and kudos to you because that's incredible. And we'd like to see more of that. You now have the Biden-Harris DOJ, Alex, suing Virginia for, get this, taking non-citizens off of their voter rolls too close to the election. Okay, let me say this again. These are people who are not legal citizens of the United States and have no business voting in our elections. Why, Alex, on earth would you want to stop this from happening if you did not have some nefarious intent in mind? And that's all I can imagine.
No, this is a simple one. They want non-citizens to be able to vote.
Yeah.
That's always been their dream. And they're already voting in local elections, and the Democrats will do anything to keep them on the voter rolls because it's a lot harder to cancel a ballot that's already been cast than it is to get a new ballot. It's a lot harder to remove a vote that's already been cast than it is to community organize and to be able to get the non-citizens voting in there. And that is what they've been doing. But I will tell you, Republicans have to be much faster on the draw on this. They were very slow. They have to pick this up beforehand. I don't know why they're going through the voter rolls now. They have 4 years to go through it. And I wish we were faster. Kudos to Youngkin for getting on it now, but I wish he got on it a year ago.
Yeah, well, I'll say this. In the past 6 months since I've been at the RNC, we have worked really hard and we've gone state by state. And sadly, I know the names of a lot of these secretaries of state, like Jocelyn Benson, who's a secretary of state of Michigan. Michigan and Pennsylvania, man, they've tried desperately to hold on to some of these really outrageous rules that they put in place that make it very easy to cheat. And every time they try to do this, we have to sue them. And we sued the state of Michigan to clean their voter rolls, and they cleaned 92,000 inactive voters off the voter rolls. We've had to do it in states where they don't naturally comply with these things. So I can tell you the past 6 months, we certainly have been on it, Alex, but it's insane. And it also makes you wonder, is this the whole reason, Sabrina, that they've had this open border policy? You look at the state of California, we'll go back to your state, your home state again, and you have the governor of California saying, you know what, please, we cannot possibly have any identification when people come vote. Why would you want that, Sabrina? What is that about?
I mean, it is the loudest, screaming, reddest flag I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're trying to say that we are having, these really legitimate, fair elections, but then you have things where you have an actual administration suing a state for wanting proof of citizenship to vote, it's very concerning. And I wish the Democrats would take 5 minutes to read the Constitution and actually see how these things should be run.
Well, we have invited our friends on our counterparts at the DNC to come over and join us in our pursuit of election integrity. We certainly have worked hard at it. And we want to make sure that people out there know we're going to be focused on this like a hawk, like a laser. Everywhere a vote is cast and counted, again, we want people in the room and eyes in the room when that is happening. But you can't sit this one out. I think this is the overall thing. We have to make it too big to rig. We know there's been cheating in elections for a long time, and we're doing everything we possibly can from the RNC right now to make sure that this is indeed a free, fair, and transparent election, but it involves everybody getting out to vote. So take your friends, take your family, take your neighbors, take every single person you know, and make sure you're registered to vote. SwampTheVoteUSA.com is our website. If you want to check out your voter registration, where you vote early, please go vote early. And so that's all I can say. I think this is going to be, again, a historic election. I know I said this before, that I feel very good about things right now. I feel very strong about Donald Trump right now. But we're all going to have to do our part. We're all going to have to get out and vote. And we're all going to have to encourage other people to do the same thing. So I want to say thank you to Sabrina. Thank you to Alex, as always, for being here with us. And to everybody at home, thank you for joining us. We'll see you back here next time for more of The Right View.
And I won't back down. Hey, baby.
Nothing is worse than being on a phone call that drops. Nothing is worse than trying to text someone and you can't reach them because your phone is out of service range. And nothing is worse than supporting these major corporations and companies who don't support us. That is why I love Patriot Mobile. They are America's only Christian conservative wireless network. They use every cell tower out there available to all networks so that they have the greatest 4G and 5G coverage nationwide, and they support the causes that are important to us as conservatives. If you go today to patriotmobile.com/Lara Trump and use the promo code Trump, you will get free activation today. Again, that is patriotmobile.com/Lara Trump. The promo code is Trump for free activation so that you can get a great cell plan and feel good about doing it.